chapter 21, if you just remember in chapter 22, it was basically a stream of consciousness of Sethe just embracing the idea that beloved has come back to her, rejoicing that their family is reunited. Now in this chapter, it is Denver's turn to have a stream of consciousness moment. And I think what's important to think about here is that because now it's out in the open who beloved actually is, that, you know, both Sethe and Denver feel like they can just let the floodgates open and express all their feelings about the family, about each other, about what happened to beloved. And that's what's going to happen in Denver's chapter here. And so she says right from the beginning, beloved is my sister. I swallowed her blood right along with my mother's milk. This will come up again. And then she starts to explore this idea that, like, you know, Sethe is scary. I mean, Sethe killed her own child. And she says to herself, I love my mother, but I know she killed one of her own daughters. And tender as she is with me, I'm scared of her because of it. She also talks about the fact that killing is condemning. You know, everyone talks about how terrible it is that white people kill black people and that people go around killing each other all the time. But it's terrifying to her that there's something within her mother that makes it okay to kill her sister. And she's afraid it's going to happen again. So she always leaves the house cautiously. You know, if she does, she watches over the yard, like she wants to stay home where it's safe. And because she's afraid that if somebody else comes in the yard again, like the school teacher did, that it's going to make Sethe snap and somehow she'll try to kill Denver. So she watches over the yard. She thinks it can't happen again. And now she's thinking, like, I have to keep my mother away from beloved. Like, maybe what if she does it to the same person again? So I have a lot of things underlined here that I think could possibly be on quizzes. There's lots of details here. And just like in in Sethe's chapter, in chapter 21, Denver is very much weaving in and out of the present and the past. She jumps to remembering what it was like in prison, how she saw little things looking at them in the corner. This would be rats in the cells. And that she has learned a lot of things. Like she says here, going back to Lady Jones, if you couldn't hear what anybody said, it was so quiet, made me have to read faces and learn how to figure out what people were thinking. So I didn't need to hear what they said. So remember, after she finds out from Nelson Lord that she had been in prison, she lost her hearing. And so she's talking here about how when she couldn't hear, she had to be much more observant with her eyes, obviously. She had to read people. She had to pay attention to her surroundings without having her hearing. And so she definitely is even more afraid. You know, I thought she was trying to kill her that day in the clearing to kill her back. This is about beloved. Remember when they were down in the clearing and they were ice skating, beloved came and put her arms around Sethe's neck and started to choke her. And then, you know, so she's remembering, like, maybe she's trying to kill her back. I mean, these are all reasonable things. So she's kind of weaving through memories of the past and thinking about them through the perspective of beloved. Like all that time, you know, beloved was here. And what kind of things was she doing? And is it possible that she would want to have revenge on Sethe? And so Denver feels this need to protect everybody. Like she needs to make sure Sethe doesn't hurt beloved again or hurt herself. And she has to make sure that, you know, beloved doesn't try to hurt Sethe again. Then she talks about how she used to have dreams that every night Sethe cut off her head. So this is so reasonable. I mean, if you think about a child knowing about a murder of her own sibling, that she would be so afraid that it could happen to her. And so she would have dreams every night that her head was cut off and that it was just something that grown-up people did. Like, you could have your head cut off, just like you can have your mother take out a splinter or get something out of your eye, like it's something unpleasant, but you have to have it done. That's what she's literally comparing cutting off the head to, which is shocking, but I guess that's how a child's mind could work. Then she imagines what it would be like to have her head cut off, how her mother would cut off the head and then take her head downstairs and braid her hair, and how Denver would try not to cry because it hurts to have her hair combed. But then when Sethe finishes combing and starts the braiding, Denver gets relaxed and sleepy, and she wants to go to sleep, but she knows if she does, she won't wake up. So this is just like blending of her real life experiences, having her hair done, with a dream that's happening while her head is cut off, which is just horrible. So she thinks about the only place that Sethe can't get to is in Baby Suggs's room. And she talks about how, in this little section here, how Sethe remodeled 124. It used to have a kitchen outside. And when Sethe moved in, she brought the kitchen, she made the kitchen inside. And people criticized her for that, saying that, people who have nice clothes on don't want to sit in the same room with someone who's cooking, because cooking is smelly and smoky and greasy, and people don't want their clothes to smell. But Sethe ignored those criticisms because she wanted her kids to be safe with her. She didn't want to be outside cooking and have the children inside, or feel like they had to come outside if the weather was inclement. So she brings everything inside. So she has remodeled the inside, and that changes the way people move through the house. And then she remembers sleeping at night and having her brothers nearby and having Here Boy, which was the dog, nearby, and how she would hear everybody's breathing. And sometimes she didn't know if she was breathing. So again, just this fear of death, fear of something happening to her. And then she does talk about finally when it would get really quiet, then she could dream about her dad. So she said, the quiet let me dream my daddy better. I always knew he was coming. Something was holding him up. So she talks about how she spends all of her outside self loving her mother, so Sethe wouldn't kill her, and loving her even when she braided my head at night, which was painful. But I never let her know my daddy was coming for me. So she believed her daddy was coming. And then instead, her daddy didn't come, Paul D came. He didn't come for me, he wanted my mother at first, and then he wanted my sister too, but she got him out of here, and I'm so glad he's gone. So then she goes back to remembering Hallie again. And so she says that Grandma Baby Suggs, used to tell her his things. So by saying, tell me his things, she means like stories about him. Baby Suggs would tell Denver stories about Hallie, about how he liked his fried eggs to be runny and he would dip his bread in there. And she would say he was too good for the world, that he would never make it through anything hard because he was too good. He loved things like animals and tools and crops and the alphabet, and he could count on paper. And other Black people told him he shouldn't learn to count. And because that would, here it says here, one of them with a number for a name said it would change his mind, make him forget things he shouldn't and memorize things he shouldn't. And he didn't want his mind messed up. This was like what another slave had said, like why he didn't want to learn to count. But Hallie says, no, if you can't count, they can cheat you. If you can't read, they can beat you. He thought that was funny. Grandma didn't. But it was because Hallie could count on paper that he was able to buy Baby Suggs' freedom, because he could add up how much money he was basically making. And then she remembers again when the ghost came and how the boys would get blamed for things, like if the milk was spilled, Sethe would say that one of the boys did it, but actually it was the ghost. And then she also acknowledges that when the ghost came, Denver knew it was beloved. So this whole time, Denver has known that the ghost is her dead sister. And then when beloved actually came in person, Denver knew that too. She says, just like when she came back, I knew who she was. Not right away, but soon as she spelled her name, not even her given name, but the one Ma'am paid the stone cutter for, I knew. And when she wondered about Ma'am's earrings, I mean, we know then too, something I didn't know about, well, that just made the cheese more binding. My sister come to help me wait for my daddy. So I think these details about Hallie are important, that this whole time Denver has believed and probably still believes that her father is coming. And then she remembers more stories about him, how he was an angel man. He could look at you and tell where you hurt. He could fix things. These are things he did for his mother, because remember, she had a bad hip, and so she had a hard time walking. He made a hanging thing for Grandma Baby so she could pull herself up from the floor when she woke up in the morning. This is when she would have been on Sweet Home. And he made a step so when she stood up, she was level. Grandma said she was always afraid a white man would knock her down in front of her children. She behaved and did everything right in front of her children because she didn't want them to see her knocked down. So this is an important detail too. So he was an angel man. Paul D is not, is according to Denver, not the same person at all. She believes that they should all be together, Hallie and Sethe and Beloved and Denver. They could all be a family. And then she says, Grandma Baby said people look down on her because she had 8 children with different men. So now we're jumping back to another story about Baby Suggs. So just please be aware as you read through these paragraphs, like I think we have 3 different time periods in this one. Same with up here. She's jumping back and forth between stories that Baby Suggs told about herself, which is what this is, stories that Baby Suggs told about Hallie, things that Denver herself remembers about their home. So this is, I think, a really memorable bit of advice that Denver received from her grandma. Grandma Baby said that people looked down because she had 8 children with different men. Colored people and white people both looked down on her for that. Slaves were not supposed to have pleasurable feelings of their own. Their bodies were not supposed to be like that. But they have to have as many children as they can to please whoever owned them. Still, they were not supposed to have pleasure deep down. She said for me not to listen to all that I should always listen to my body and love it. So I feel like this could be on a quiz question. It also shows, I think, that these women care for each other. They give good advice. They're wise. Baby Suggs is very wise. We can see why she was a preacher. The secret house. When Baby Suggs died, I went there, she said. Ma'am wouldn't let me go outside in the yard and eat with the others. So this was during the funeral. Remember, Sethe stayed in the house and would not eat with the people in town because they had turned their backs on her. That hurt. I know Grandma Baby would have liked the party and the people who came to it. So Denver wanted to be outside with the people and celebrating her grandmother's life, obviously. So she has a memory about that. And then she goes back to, she told me all my daddy's things. So this is the 3rd time now that she has thought about her father, how hard he worked to buy her, after the cake was ruined and the iron clothes all messed up, and after I heard my sister crawling up the stairs to get back to her bed, she told me my things too. So Grandma Baby also told Denver about her past, that I was charmed. I think this could be a quiz question, because I got saved all the time, and that I shouldn't be afraid of the ghost. It wouldn't harm me because I tasted its blood when Ma'am nursed me. So remember, that was the way this chapter opened. She said the ghost was after Ma'am, and her too, for not doing anything to stop it. But it would never hurt me. I just had to watch out for it because it was a greedy ghost and needed a lot of love, which was only natural considering. And I do. So she does watch out for the ghost. I love her, I do. She played with me, and she always came to be with me whenever I needed her. She's mine, beloved, she's mine. So, of course, this is how Sethe's chapter ended as well. Sethe saying, beloved is her daughter, and she is mine. So these are important chapters. It's nice that they're side by side, just sort of thinking about like floodgates opening, acknowledgement about what's been happening this whole time, thinking about their whole life. Both of them do this because I think when you have like a full circle moment, that just happens naturally, that you think about all the steps that got you there. And so this is one that I think you should really be annotating for confusion, for place, like where am I now, as we jump from 124 to Sweet Home, to stories about Baby Suggs and Hallie and Sethe and the boys, Howard and Bugler, and the ghost, when it was a ghost and when it was a person. All of that is kind of tangled up here together. So just take your time with it. Underline some of these things that I have. I feel like they could show up on questions for a quiz. Also probably could be some really good parts in here that could help you with a paper, especially when we think about the character of Denver. We're getting more information about her here that we haven't had before.